Hello everyone, welcome to a new video for SUI render an FET price prediction based on Elliott Wave analysis. Starting with SUI here on the all-time history, we are looking at a potential, of course, ABC finished as a zigzag, finishing wave A. We have a followed potential correction here unfolding, and that because, of course, of the invalidation of several 1-2s here. Once we got, of course, this drop, it has invalidated this 1-2, meaning, of course, invalidation of the previous 1-2, even transforming this to an ABC zigzag toward the upside. And we're looking for a potential correction here that it might still be unfolding as an impulse downward, of course, in several possibilities, which we can see, of course, later on. Now, basically, what we are looking at here is a wave B in 3 ways that it has to be finished, of course, which is almost with this wick, of course, can be almost finished, but still looking for something to finalize this move towards the downside before we start to move for a wave C again for an A, B, and a C. Now, the possibilities are, of course, as well a potential triangle here unfolding for a wave B, of course, as well, which it might take a longer time before we start the move, of course, for higher prices in a wave C. Now, basically, if we move on the 2 hours chart here, we have the following possibilities for SUI, where we are looking here at a potential 1-2. Of course, after the zigzag over there, we might have a leading diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 as a wave 1 and having wave 2. And this is a massive drop for wave 3. Currently, you might be, of course, in a wave 4 over there, which is not invalidated, by the way. The invalidation is not taken here. We see a gap in between, and if this is your wave 4, you might be unfolding here a diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 for wave 5, and that means, of course, it can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 as an impulse to finish, of course, a bigger correction, which it was, of course, as we mentioned, an A, B, and a C toward the downside. In this case scenario, of course, we might be in this possible finished impulse downward, meaning, of course, a wave B might be finished there and we start to move for a bull run. Another possibility is, of course, finishing here kind of like another ending diagonal without taking the low. And that means, of course, if we don't take the low, we have to figure it out, of course, if we are here in a wave D toward the upside, which it can be a triangle, of course, as an A, B, C, D, and an E, and then moving for higher later on. Now, basically, if we move even on the 1 hour chart much more closer, we can see that we are already in 3 waves here. So it's kind of like a little bit impossible to be in a bullish scenario yet, especially, of course, from this wick that we are in a formation of 3 waves. And that means, of course, even here, if you have an impulse and this is your wave 2, you took the low, meaning also invalidation for any kind of 1-2. And if we dive inside this level here on the micro, we can see, of course, that this cannot be yet a very clear impulse. Everything is still, of course, overlapping here. We see invalidation of any kind of impulsive wave. And if this is a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, another 1-2, and then, okay, that's too much 1-2s, but of course, if this is the 1-2 of a wave 3, then it should unfold. And of course, breaking the 1-to-1 fib level taken from the A to the B to the C, which I believe that this is the case scenario here as an A, B, and a C unfolding, or can be, of course, a WX and a wave Y as a zigzag. Potentially one more high to hit the 1-to-1 fib level, which is, of course, with this potential even ending diagonal, that it might be unfolding here as 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, or even a bigger one, which can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Again, since you took the low here, if you don't want to take the whole wick, of course, there as in consideration, it can be, of course, an ending diagonal as well, unfolding in several, of course, shapes. The ending diagonal in one form can start from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Or we might be already in a bigger or larger ending diagonal as 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and a 5. If you don't want to consider the wick and you just want to consider the price action as bodies here, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Okay, so the things are not yet, of course, ready and clear for bullish guys. Of course, despite that you see some rebound there, that means nothing yet, okay? It means nothing yet that we see something bullish or something like this. It can be simply an ABC, and the wave C can finish here as an ending diagonal and moving downward again, of course, continuation and finishing up, of course, this correction. And that because, of course, on the daily and on the micros, we need to finish some structures here to start to see, of course, higher prices. That was for SUI. Let's move for a render. For render, also on the all-time history, we are looking also at the following potential scenario as ABC zigzag and finished wave A, and potentially here we would like to see a very clear finished wave B. Now this wick, of course, makes all the things very complicated. Despite that it is very, very deep, we can consider that the wave B is still not finished, and we might still be looking here at 3 waves down for wave A. You have the triangle, which is a very clear triangle wave B, and we're looking here to finish up a wave C. Now, if you take a look at the wave A, how much big and large it is, you would like to see at least something comparable in a wave C, at least, of course, in an ending diagonal probably, or, of course, in a very deep impulse. And, of course, taking the 1-to-1 fib level, despite that this wick, of course, has hit it and moved directly towards the upside, that doesn't mean anything. It means, of course, that we might still, of course, move and fill this price action. Now, if we move inside it, of course, we have those different possibilities where you might have, of course, a bigger wave 1 here for a diagonal, where you have a zigzag potentially finished wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5 to be unfolding downward. Now, because of this price here, of course, you have 3 waves up, and we see, of course, a potential, again, correction here in sideways somehow. It can be a potential, of course, diagonal that it is unfolding, but don't forget that the invalidation is not taken yet. And that means, of course, as a 1, 2, 3, wave 4 did not take invalidation, you might still be in a wave 5 to unfold downwards. This is the first possibility here. After, of course, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then wave 3, 4, and a 5, which is still might be unfolding, can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, another diagonal here that it might be as well unfolding for a render. So we have also the same scenario as for SUI. We have 2 potential diagonals. One is smaller as a wave 5, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, and a wave 5 to take somehow the low. Of course, not the wick here, but of course it can be, of course, taking the somehow the low of these candles, which it can be a wave 5. And the second scenario, of course, after the wave E, you might be in a zigzag, wave 1, wave 2, bigger zigzag wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, of course, to finish up here a larger diagonal, which is, of course, at least to reply here for this large ABC, as we saw, of course, on the daily. Because we have a very large A, you have a very large wave B, you need kind of like even larger wave C. So we're gonna watch, of course, what's gonna happen later, but guys, of course, it's still a little bit far from being bullish there. Even on the lower time frame, on the 1-hour chart, if we analyze this range here, which it is unfolding, we can see a 1-to-1 fib level perfectly taken, and we see, of course, a reaction, of course, a red reaction, where you might have here, in case you have a B and you're looking for a wave C, it might be a diagonal here for wave C and then dropping down again. Or it can be, of course, a W, X, and a Y finished here, of course, as a potential correction 3 ways, which it might drop down, of course, as well, and continue the trend downward, guys. So basically, the reaction at the 1-to-1 fib level is not looking really great, especially if we are here in a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a wave 3. This is still, of course, a wave 4 over there in an impulse. 2.61, 2.695 is not taken, which is invalidation here for a wave 1, of course, and we're still looking at a potential impulse downward. And that means, of course, the trend might continue, of course, for lower, guys. For FET, of course, FET also, many comments saw this as something very interesting for FET, of course, after this massive drop and start to doubt even the analysis, like, what's going on, KG? You said, like, FET is dropping down. Okay, guys, I mean, it is dropping down. And of course, the thing is, once you finish here 5 ways down, Elliott Wave, it never mistakes. If you finish 5 ways down, you need a correction. So it's very normal to see, of course, something moving toward the upside. So I don't know why you get surprised. So 1, 2, and then wave 3, because if this is, of course, a finished impulse there, is your wave 3, you need a wave 4. It has to correct. It has to move for higher, even if there is a crisis there. Okay? A correction is a must always in an Elliott wave, even when the things are dumping very massively. You still need a correction. Okay, guys? So please keep this in mind always. Not every time we see a green, we freak out and we start to turn bullish directly. Okay, so we still exactly in this wave 4, potentially here 0.23, of course, which is a blue box, and of course hit, and we see reaction. Now I believe even it might take more time here, ABC for a wave 4, and then moving for a wave 5 later on. Before invalidation of this impulse, we cannot say that we are bullish for FET, guys. Okay, before invalidation of bearish 0.52 again. So you need a massive move here just to say that, yeah, we potentially are bullish. Why potentially? Because you might still, of course, in a zigzag wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, 4, and a 5 as a large ending diagonal as well. Okay, in case that happened, but I doubt it, of course, because fundamentally this coin is not really performing right now, and I'm still thinking, of course, about delisting this coin in the next week potentially. We're gonna see, of course, the reaction. I just want to make sure that the things, of course, are not gonna recover and so on. But yeah, basically the things are going in the same direction, guys. Yep, so these are the updates for SUI, Render, and FET. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes and comments. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.